Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you all for coming tonight. Glad we almost made it to capacity here. But we're here to talk about Surfers Beach shoreline protective device, as you may well know. The purpose of the meeting tonight is to share project update since the last public update in October at the Mid-Coast Community Council meeting. At that time, the design for a temporary protective device was conceptual, and now we've progressed in that design, much of it through nearly weekly collaboration with the Coastal Commission and Caltrans to try to achieve a relatively compressed project timeframe in order to get the funding that was allocated this fiscal year. And so we're approaching the springtime when critical hearings will be held, and so we're preparing that permit to get in front of both the Commission and also the Coastal Commission, and then the California Transportation Commission before June. We've gotten feedback from the public and also from those agencies and have come to what is now a advanced design for rock slope protection. We'll go into detail about some of the justifications for that and why that is advantageous at this time. And we have our consultants on hand, Recco, Grant, far left, and Alvin, and then obviously our legislative aide here, Nicholas Calderon, on behalf of Supervisor Don Horsley. And then I'm sure at some point we'll have public comment after we finish with the presentation. And for now, I'll turn it over to the consultant.
Okay. I guess on behalf of the county and Recco, thanks again for coming out tonight for us to present the status of the project at Surfers Beach. I'm just going to quickly get into it, I guess. In review, this project is a joint effort with the County of San Mateo, City of Half Moon Bay, and Caltrans. I guess this project affects all three parties since it's within everyone, I guess everyone's right of way. Recco has been hired as the consultant to develop the project plans for this project to get constructed, along with putting together the studies and helping secure the permits required. So going over the funding for the project, we have several sources. National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, some of the monies from the Castro Busan oil spill, county is matching a portion of that. County also has their own funding for this project, along with City of Half Moon Bay and California Coastal Commission for their mitigation funds. Caltrans is also will be, I guess, footing most of the bill here, with most of the money coming from them for the construction and to help out with part of the design efforts. So why are we doing this project? The main goal of this project is to basically provide an interim solution to the erosion that's occurring right now along Surfers Beach, where the hope is to protect Highway 1 with an interim solution while while a more permanent solution is being developed for the long term. Along with that, at the project site right now, there really isn't a paved path. If you've been out there, it's pretty much this a narrow dirt road that connects two paved paths on either end, on Coronado on one end and the other end by the RV park. So this project, along with protecting Highway 1, will also provide a more safe and, I guess, Caltrans, provide a paved path that will meet Caltrans guidelines so that there can be safe access along this coastal trail. So at this project site right now, there also really isn't any safe access to the beach. It's pretty much, I guess, just walking from that path over the eroded bluff that's there onto the beach. So this project will also provide safer means of getting there via a staircase that will go over the rock slope protection. So priorities for this project. Let's see. Like I said, we're developing a interim solution. A more permanent solution, I guess, is being developed, but all of this will come down to what the Army Corps studies for the breakwater, I guess the Harbor District region will be. We want to also enhance coastal access and recreation. Because this is within Caltrans right-of-way, we will be designing to those to Caltrans standards. Again, because this is an interim solution, we want to make sure that not only is it viable over the foreseeable future, but it'll also be easy to remove once a more long-term solution is planned out. One of the reasons why we've gone with the rock slope protection is because of the relatively minimal beach take we'd be taking compared to other alternatives we've looked at, and it's also not as adverse to the wetlands that are around, mainly the willows that are around, as other alternatives may be. So. To get to, I guess, construction, one of the big things we've done is we've conducted several studies in order to satisfy agency requirements and to, I guess, satisfy NEPA and CEQA requirements. For those that don't know, NEPA is the National Environmental Protection Act, and CEQA is the California is the equivalent for the state of California. So we've done several studies that looks at the environment, the surrounding environment. We've looked at the any adverse impacts to discharges due to stormwater, any impacts to floodplains, the hazardous, we look for any potential for hazardous material around the site. Even we've gone as far as even looking at any any impacts to cultural resources, including that may include buildings or archaeology. So all of these studies are going to be part of the Coastal Commission application that we will be submitting for the project team. We've gone through all the agencies that have a potential stake that may require permits. Ultimately, the main agency that we will need a permit from will be the Coastal Commission. So we plan on filing the permit application for the Coastal Commission early next month. Other agencies we've consulted with were the California Department of Fish and Wildlife Marine Region. We found that we didn't need a permit with them because the project site is pretty much a saltwater spray environment, so any red-legged frogs or other endangered species would not be adversely impacted. We've checked with the Regional Water Quality Control Board, and because this project isn't producing wastewater discharge, a permit won't be required with them. We've also checked with NOAA, and we do not need a permit from them because our project will actually be constructed above the mean high water elevation of the area. So we are out of their jurisdiction. So some of the, I guess, the facts for the project. We're currently looking at a $900,000 project for construction, not including the traffic handling. This price may be higher since I'm sure you're all aware that the recent storms that have occurred over the past couple of months have
The site's gotten a lot bigger.
yeah, it's changed the landscape. But overall, the project's going to be, one of the advantages of choosing the rock slope protection is that we're going to be matching what's surrounding out there right now with, as there's rock slope protection on the northwest side. I'll show you a map later. And it will blend in with what's currently out there. We're looking at about, like I said, the beach take will be minimal compared to other alternatives we looked at. Currently, we've estimated about 1,400 square feet of beach take. During construction, we will be keeping the beach open, so we will be providing temporary staircases so that beachgoers can get to and from the beach. And while the project is being constructed, this would, I guess, go hand in hand with the surfing impacts. Again, with the beach access, there shouldn't be it should still be accessible for all beachgoers. Let's see. Again, this project currently doesn't, the project site currently doesn't have a very, I guess, quote-unquote, safe trail that runs along it. This project will hopefully provide that safe path that it's been missing. So going over the timeline right now for the project, like I said, the Coastal Commission application, the Coastal Development Permit application will be, we're aiming to deliver that for the Coastal Commission early March, early next month. They will usually have the earliest meeting we will try to aim for is the May 13th meeting. This is where they, I believe, secure their funds so that they approve the project. Caltrans will also try to secure their funds by June 24th, as they have their meeting then. We're hoping to break ground by September of this year, so late summer, and we're hoping to finish by October, November. So here is a plan view of the project. This is Highway 1 here. I'm sure you're all familiar with this. To the northwest is, I guess, the traffic goes towards San Francisco, and on this side it goes towards Half Moon Bay. So this is the existing trail right now. As you can see, the project site, this whole area here, is pretty much is just a dirt road that goes from one paved path to the other paved path, and and the rock slope protection that's existing pretty much ends around here. There's a box culvert. There's a Caltrans box culvert right here that actually recently been fenced off due to the storms. With our project right now will connect the two paths with a new Caltrans standard paved path, and we will continue the rock slope protection along the bluff here to protect Highway 1 along it, and extend the rock as far south as we can before coming back into the bluff with roadway embankment to hold back the paved path above. This is Coronado right here. So looking at it, I guess street view, this is looking south towards Half Moon Bay. We have, again, this is Highway 1. This is the paved path that we're planning to put in to hopefully make this stretch of the coastal trail safer. And we'll have we will have the rock slope protection come along the embankment to not only hold back 101, I mean Highway 1, but also protect the erosion, potential erosion, well, not potential, but the erosion from the ocean. So we're planning, right now we've sized the rock to be about 2 to 4 ton rock, which is similar to what's out there right now. Underneath it will be a layer of smaller rock to, so that it can not only drain properly, but also hold back the fines that are out there so that so that it's better designed than what's out there to keep the bat from washing away. The path itself is approximately, there'll be 20 feet from the edge of curve to the hinge point where the rock begins. So again, here's another view. This is zoomed out, I guess, further, and this is our project area again. We're hoping this is a little better visual rendering of what we're planning to put out there. What I don't have out on here is where the stairs are going to be. Right now, we're planning on putting the stairs right over the new rocks that will be out there, so that the beach can be accessed directly from the path above. This will also help protect the rocks that are directly over it. The staircase will be a timber staircase, and just so that it can, again, be easily removed if once a long-term solution has been developed. So we have another visual rendering, and it's hopeful it may, I mean, it may or may not look like this. So again, we're going to hope to blend in with the surrounding rock slope protection that's around there, and have that timber staircase over the rocks, and that's pretty much it.
So I think before we start taking questions, that, a couple things that we do want to emphasize. Thank you, Alvin, by the way. A couple things we do want to emphasize is that this is an interim project. So our goal is to buy time. We want to make sure that that roadway has enough protection so that all the appropriate stakeholders can have the necessary conversations to identify what is the long-term solution there. Right now, we obviously don't know what the long-term solution is for that location. There are several ideas out there. One concept is if we move sand and sediment from inside the harbor to Surfers Beach, what impact will that have? And the Army Corps of Engineers is due to release a report in the coming months, and so that would be considered and impact whatever the long-term decision is there. In the Highway 1 Safety and Mobility Improvement Study, there was an evaluation of what would it look like and what would it be like if the highway was to be moved. So there are, and I'm not saying that any of these are the right or the wrong answer. What I'm saying is there are conceptual ideas on the table right now, and we need to be able to protect that highway and enhance coastal access and recreation long enough for a long-term solution to be identified and implemented. And that's really what is at the heart of this project. So, please keep in mind that, this is an interim project, and in the interim that it'll be there, it'll protect Highway 1 so that it is no longer impacted. It'll enhance coastal access, it'll enhance coastal recreation, and we're really looking forward to having this here so we can put our focus on what is the long-term solution. So.
And then, first of all, I want to apologize. I didn't introduce myself properly. I'm James Hinkamp with San Mateo County Planning Project Manager. But I mentioned earlier about the compressed time frame with relation to the funding. What we learned early on during this project was that the Caltrans portion was committed in this fiscal year. So that is why we have to achieve a hearing in this fiscal year in order for that funding to be applied, even though the construction will occur in the next fiscal year, the second quarter of the next fiscal year, all the money is budgeted currently. So, if there was any confusion about that, that one of the reasons why the scope of work was what many may perceive to be compressed.
And with that said, we'd like to hear from you guys. Yeah, Chris. And I think everyone, if you're gonna make comments, the microphone at the podium is best.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you coming out here. I had had a series of questions that I want to know for myself, but since it's being televised, that maybe the answers will help people in the community that couldn't come here tonight. First off, do you have, in addition to this project handout here, is there an official project report that members of the public could go to that would have like really nuts and bolts, detailed specifics of what's going on here? Because I know a lot of people are going to be, what's the size of those rocks, and that kind of like fine-grained detail. Is there a document that they could access, and where would that be?
And we're working on a document similar to that will accompany the coastal development permit application. And I think once we're done with that and we submit that, that would be available, right?
Right, all the documents that you saw there, that list of about 10 reports, those will be public documents, but Caltrans first has to review them, and so it's still a couple months away before those become public documents. I'm not sure what we've got for that.
Yeah, and that's just because they're still work in progress. They're still being developed and,
Sure.
and finalized.
Could I make a request that when that project report is completed, that somebody from county could maybe send it to the Mid-Coast Community Council, if we can post that to our website? That would really, I think, help out a lot. So some other detailed questions would be, I was mentioning earlier, expected traffic impacts. Has it been decided yet whether this will be a night or day construction project?
The plan is to put in a traffic, we'll put in it's not exactly detour, we're gonna do a lane shift. So we'll put a K-rail along the side so that the project will be completely blocked from traffic, and there'll be a lane shift. The only impact will be the potential loss of the left-hand turn lane. So there'll be a lane shift, and the K-rail will extend about to Coronado Street. So the construction will take place on this side, and the traffic will have a slight lane shift over. So that will be, the lane shift would have to be put in at night to have minimum traffic impacts. But there would be, for about 2 months, temporary traffic. Probably the traffic will be slowed down to 35 through the lane shift.
And but the construction itself, the lane shift will be put in at night, the construction itself will happen during the day?
Yes, and that would be up to the contractor, but the construction will happen, it pretty much has to happen during the day because of the working next to the tide. You could have lights and do some of the work at night, but most of the work will probably take place during the day.
And, I understand the reality of the situation here, but do we know, have in these studies, do we really have any idea what the actual impact of traffic is going to be? I mean, have you done any specific studies on this section right here so that we understand, what the level of service is going to be for that section of roadway and that intersection right there without that turn lane? I fear that the impact on traffic will be more considerable than maybe what you're expecting. So I'm gonna just answer my own question that there hasn't been, but I want you to really think about that, because like I said, people's feeling about traffic is already here, and it just feels like there's gonna be more impact than that. And so we're gonna have a loss of roadside parking because of that lane shift. A lot of people like to park on the east side of the highway there. Will that parking be unavailable now because of the lane shift?
Right, we'll actually have to do some paving on that side to reinforce that outside shoulder so you can carry traffic loads.
And what about work equipment for this project? When construction is happening, it will be on the west side of the highway?
Yes.
There's enough room for the equipment, and then at the end of the work shift, at the end of the day, will it remain there? Will it be moved to a,
The K-rail will
yard.
be permanently placed there for the duration of the contract. And you'll have about 12 feet of lane, well, 2.5 feet of K-rail, but then about 10 feet of lane to work in, and then all the embankment area to work in with his equipment.
so, residents and visitors here could expect that for the 2-3 months of this project, there's gonna be large construction equipment basically permanently there?
That's up to the contractor. Typically, he'd probably have a storage area where he'd park his equipment at night. I would imagine his large crane would be there for the whole process. Isn't going to always be at RSP, but to place the RSP, he'll need a large crane, and so that will probably be there for about a month. And then the pavement, the path construction will be a little less intense with large equipment, but to move those rocks, you'll need a fairly significant crane.
And how will, I know this is outside of the scope, but it's right there. I'm just wondering, how does this project plan to address the crumbling Caltrans box culvert that's literally 5 feet, 10 feet out?
This project will not address that.
And do you see any, problems with that, of this, if they've got this fenced off thing that's crumbling with pipes and water coming right out, and you're gonna build something, right downstream of that?
So I'll take that. So we're having conversations with them, right? They are two separate projects, but Caltrans acknowledges and understands that way. If we're gonna have this equipment in that location, is there an opportunity to do both at the same time? They understand that, that is a possibility. They need to identify their funding, and so no decisions have been made, but we have had preliminary conversations on that, and I'll go back and try to get an update so I can provide that to the MCC.
Thank you, Nicholas. I think the entire community would feel like it would just be completely irrational and illogical to do that project and leave that one there when the equipment's there. But I understand they're two different things. So I was talking with Grant and Alvin. The project site has sustained considerable new damage in the last month. And I'm wondering if the roadbed itself has been damaged at all in this last month with the amount of caving that's happened right at the end of the current riprap.
Not that I've seen, but I did talk to the Caltrans staff that investigated the culvert, and it's the outer 6 feet of the culvert that has begun to fail, so it hasn't quite affected the roadway, and I believe that's probably the reason that they didn't jump on it right away, is that the effect was just that outer 6 feet of the box which has failed.
What about within the scope, the area of this actual project?
No, not yet. It's still the bluff that's being impacted the most, and then right around the riprap. Go back one slide. This area here, it's worked its way behind the riprap.
Right.
Caused a little void there, and then this area, this trail's gone now.
Yep.
It's worked its way back further, and then along the bluff here, you've seen a lot of these large sections have caved off down, further down. So it's been fairly aggressive with the king tides.
Thank you, everybody, for letting me ask. 2 more questions, and then thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So again, outside of the scope, but I think people are going to want to know, based on the fact that this is happening from something that happened upstream from there. We've got a situation in Murata where we've got some erosion happening that people are attributing to the riprap there. What have studies been, what is going to be the impact on the Murata West shoreline there, just south of this riprap? In particular, if we look at some of your diagrams, there's a little knob that kind of sticks out, where you're going to have your riprap right up to this little knob that sticks out. And I'm just wondering if we know over the course of 4, 5, 6, 7 years that this might be here, what's going to be the damage there?
Does that show? Let me see if I can find it.
Where?
Go to the bottom
Murata
one.
Road.
The bottom one. No, sorry. This gets to Magellan. Okay. I don't think we go all the way to Verona Road there. But you can basically see from this slide where the RSP that ends and how much of the bluff is eroded since it's been placed. And this bluff is continuing to move. So which were you talking about, Chris?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, sorry. I wondered how to same question. So, as I understand it, orient myself here. Here's your project site,
Right.
and it's going to kind of fill in this area.
Not quite that far, yeah.
What's going to happen right here?
That's sort of on its own, what it's doing today. The rock slope protection will continue about to here, and to compensate for additional extra damage, the plan is to bury RSP at the bottom of the proposed embankment, so that when this area does erode away, the RSP, we call it self-launching RSP, will be exposed, and it'll protect the trail from further erosion. But we're not really allowed to leave our footprint of the project site to do anything further down the beach.
So, I mean, I'm not as a criticism, but basically, we're fixing this, and what's downstream is just going to have to, be on its own for.
Yeah, that's the nature of how projects are delivered.
I understand.
And you know, Chris, I think that's a really good question. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are supportive of seeing, can we take sediment and sand from the harbor and put it on the beach? Because, or else, you know, I think the expression I've heard is you're chasing, I think Leonard used it, maybe you're chasing riprap. Have you used that expression? Someone's used. Well, so, right, that's right. So south of whatever you do, you're gonna have another issue. That's why we're dealing with this today.
Yep.
But if you could do the sand and the sediment, you might be able to prevent that. So, you know, I think that's something that is gonna have to be evaluated in whatever the long-term solution is.
Thank you. And last question, and I only ask this question because I've had several people ask this of me. Some people, you know, kind of getting a little upset about it. But people have been asking me, how exactly was the rock slope protection alternative decided upon? You know,
That's a good question.
so I'll just leave it at that. Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody letting me ask all those questions.
You got some. Basically, the rock slope protection was chosen as an alternative, and because we use that phrase, it was easily removable, and that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. But the Coastal Commission, their goal is to protect the coast and preserve it as much as possible. And the ideal way that historically it's supposed to happen is that it's retreat. As the coast goes, you're supposed to retreat from the coast and not armor it. Because unfortunately, whenever you do something, you cause an impact somewhere else. It's the law of consequences. And so when you put RSP there, you know, you protect that spot, but maybe you increase the energy of the waves adjacent to it or down the road from it. So it becomes difficult once you start protecting the coast to try to stop. You know, where do you stop? Eventually, is this all going to erode back? You know, if you don't protect it. And the Army Corps is doing a study on the sand supply, and this has a history of being sediment starved now. So it's not the RSP is not the culprit. The RSP here is not necessarily the culprit of this erosion. The breakwater has created a situation where it starved the beach of sediment. And a lot of it is just natural. It's a dynamic coast that, you know, erosion's constant. So, you know, that's the nature of things. But the RSP was chosen because the Coastal Commission wants a easily removable material, so that if there is an alternative chosen, that they can easily remove it. It won't have a permanent damage. If you were to put in a deep pile, a concrete wall, you'd have to do a lot of damage to the beach to remove it. And it's easy to construct, and plus it matches what's already existing there. It may look kind of funny if we have this RSP that we've had out there, and then we put in a soil nail wall or something different. And one of the concerns with the soil nail wall or the sheet pile wall or any wall in particular was that you'd create a a steep drop off, and then you'd have a barrier that you'd have to put at the top of it. So it was narrowed down to RSP.
Hi, Mike Wallace, how are you? The previous meeting, we discussed a lot of those alternatives, Chris, in greater detail, so it was useful to get to this point. My quick question is on the timeline for the permitting. I think it's a great timeline, but that's, several agencies that you're going to have to get through in sequence, it sounds like. How confident are you in being able to do that?
Very.
So you've done your
legwork
legwork on that, and
We've been
it's,
working
it's
with the.
We've been working very closely with the Coastal Commission, and they've been very supportive. So, we've been working close with their staff. When the Coastal Commission had their meetings out here on the San Mateo County coast side several months ago, the commissioners had a tour, and one of the places they went was Surfers Beach. So they saw that. Their staff gave them a presentation, a brief oral presentation on, what the situation is, what will be coming towards them. So they've been great. Caltrans has been great project partners on this, and so, the first step is going to be the CDP application, and then the next step is going to be the California Transportation Commission to get the construction funding approved, and then we're in a really good spot after those two, and we've been working really hard to make sure everything's set up right. So
that's great news. Thanks.
yeah.
I would just add that we would advise that the early to mid-March timeframe to submit that CDP was the optimal time for Coastal Commission staff to review for the May meeting, and then Caltrans would be fully prepared to hear it at the next month.
Leonard.
I have about half a dozen questions and comments. It'll still be a lot shorter than Chris. Pretending like this is Jeopardy, I'm going to put this in the form of a question. You know that the existing riprap has failed, and I don't believe in euphemism, so I'm just going to keep calling it riprap. You can call it RSP all you want, it's riprap. And riprap has a bad name, which is why you're using the euphemism. But you know that it's failed.
Would you like me to explain why it's failed? and how
It's failed because
Well, I can give you the full explanation.
the sand underneath has washed out because the boulders are not watertight.
Well, that's exactly right, and that was when the original RSP was placed, they didn't put a fabric behind it or the backing material with smaller rocks, so the fines.
Actually, I think they
migrate
did.
out.
I think if you go take a close look, you can see some of it there, but it's deteriorated and pretty much gone.
Well, right, they didn't have the backing, so Caltrans came back in the 90s, and they tried to patch a lot of that with concrete and whatnot, and you've seen the concrete now that's caved in the meantime, especially near the breakwater.
Yep. You referred to traffic management. I hope that there's going to be contract provisions in terms of when they can impact traffic, because the peak times here are not what a lot of people might think of as peak commute times. Now, I don't typically go out during commute times, but I think that it starts before 7 in the morning. And then, in the evening, coming the other way, it probably starts about 3:30. So you have to be really, really sensitive to what the actual peak periods are, not what some dingbat in Sacramento thinks they are.
Well, they're based on Caltrans traffic counts and
Yeah.
Caltrans lane closure.
As I said, dingbat in Sacramento. What are you going to do to minimize the traffic impact from rubbernecking?
Unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do other than on top of the K-rail, you can put fencing with netting so that you couldn't see through.
Which was done at the south portal on the tunnel, and so I think that if you have that up to probably that high, you have to see where people in a typical passenger vehicle where the eye line is and you have to put it up to that high.
No, that's a good point, Leonard, and I think that's something that we can add to the.
And I think that really needs to be done because rubbernecking at Surfers Beach on a nice day is already a huge, huge problem where people are going, wow, look at that ocean view. And so, you know, with a construction project, it's just going to get a lot worse. And just want to mention for the record, this is not news to anybody, that where the existing riprap is, there is no beach at high tide at all. So there won't be a beach here at high tide either. As far as the location of the staircase, I would urge you to reconsider the location and put it as far down toward Coronado as is practical. You might be able to put it right at the stub of Murata Road, which is opposite Coronado. The Murata Road used to connect to that intersection, and if you put it at the stub of Murata Road, that's going to encourage people going to the beach to cross at the signal instead of jaywalking through high-speed traffic.
Right, and that's a good idea. Unfortunately, that is outside of the limits of where we're allowed to work.
Okay, well, you should at least try and get the staircase as far, that's more or less east, actually, not south. People think of it as south. But if you can get it as far toward Coronado as you're allowed to, I think that'd be a good idea. Well, when that signal was installed, some of us said, people are not going to walk down there to cross at the signal, and they don't. And so I'm just going to stand here at every opportunity and say, I told you so. Also, and people have heard me say this over and over again, quoting Ken LaJoy from a 1998 talk at a Mid-Coast Council meeting, riprap always increases erosion right past the end of it. So no matter where you stop, you're going to increase the erosion just past the end of where you stopped. So riprap's always a lost cause. And the only solution for this, and so this is the last point, I kind of took them out of the order that I wrote them in, moving the highway even is only a temporary solution. Nothing is a permanent solution short of fixing the bad design of the breakwater. And the Army Corps of Engineers, if I recall, they're now 3 years late on a 2-year report. 5 years ago, I think it was, they promised us we'd have a report in 2 years. So you can't see them move even using time-lapse photography. We have to come up with something that doesn't involve them because they just have no interest in actually fixing it. They're making it into careers. Some of them are going to retire without ever getting anything done. So, by the way, somebody had a question about the left turn lane there. My understanding, and you can clarify this right now, my understanding is you're saying the left turn lane is going to be closed for the duration of the...
We haven't fully designed this end of it, but I see some complications because as you shift the traffic, and this traffic's coming here without these people being able to see clearly, someone who's coming this the first time may just drive right into the left-hand turn lane. So I want to make sure that we design the left-hand turn lane if we have room to put it in. And we should have the room, but my main concern is that traffic coming north or going west, that they are able to, and you're not able to strike through an intersection. So I just want to make sure that we don't have traffic heading. So
what you're saying is you don't want the northbound traffic to have to zigzag through the intersection?
They will have to zigzag, but we want to make it safe. So that's the dilemma that we're at now, because I think we have the room, but it's not fully designed.
Okay, you might consider putting a sign up southbound before Capistrano saying, recommend turning here into El Granada. And that's assuming you can even keep the left turn lane. By the way, Chris had also asked about equipment. The county, where is Chris? The county asked Granada Community Services District for permission to use part of our property as an equipment staging area, and What we've agreed to is the corner, it's just off the top of that map. So basically along Obispo Road, because they're not going to come out this way because they'd be on the wrong side of the highway. So they're going to go up Obispo, come down Capistrano, and then back down the highway, so they're on the correct side. And so it makes sense to have them use the part of our property that is right next to Obispo, and it's going to be tucked as close to the riparian area as they can get away with.
Yeah, and the staging area is still one of those things, one of the last final details that we're figuring out. So, but yes, Granada Community Service District has generously said we can use that. But there are some environmental elements associated with that, so we need to lock those down. So those are kind of still being worked out right now.
Yeah, and I brought this slide to answer your question from last time, Mike. Sorry. You had asked before about this, you said there was RSP, or riprap, out into the water from the surfers were hitting. And what you're seeing is this little knoll here. And that's a knoll, when they originally built the breakwater, the beach was here. If you look at this original red line is where the beach used to be. So when they built the breakwater, this was the beach, and what happened, it started eroding behind it. And so it eroded so far behind it, they just rip-rap behind it. So you still have this knoll of RSP that's left out in the bay. So it's not that the rock has been moved out into the bay, but you've got that knoll there. And this is the whole breakwater. Why, Leonard, the breakwater doesn't work? Because that's before the breakwater. The coast had this, what they call a log spiral curve. This is just a mathematical equation, a log spiral. But the coastline eroded in that log spiral shape, and there's your pillar point with Mavericks right out here. So that's how it looked like before they built the breakwater. And so when they built the breakwater, not only did they trap all the sediment from Denniston Creek and Deer Creek, but the waves still wanted to create this logarithmic, that's just the way the energy dissipates around this curve. And so it starts, and so you get this more erosion at the point of the breakwater, and not quite as much down here, but you still get erosion down here. So that's why you get this real attack on right at the base of the breakwater.
The way Ken LaJoy explained it, Ken LaJoy was, he worked for USGS studying San Mateo County coastal erosion. The way he explained it is, nature curved the log spiral Half Moon Bay there. Then we built the breakwater, and so nature just moved further down where it's carving the log spiral now.
Exactly. So, but you can see, and this is a great example, that's Denniston Creek, that's the watershed for Denniston Creek. But all the sediment that comes down out of Denniston Creek, the constant erosion now is being trapped inside this breakwater, and you'll see how it's just built up here, and it hasn't been allowed to move down the coast. So you end up trapping quite a bit of sediment in that breakwater. So the Army Corps is looking at ways to move that. It is a slow study. I think they want to be very thorough. It's a difficult thing to model, but they're trying to, and I think they're going to come out with an answer that says that they should dredge out of this and put the sand on the beach, and maybe they remove the very tail end of the breakwater and see if they can get sand to continually migrate through.
You know, some of us non-experts have been saying that for decades.
Yeah, it's just common sense.
Sure.
Hi, so this knob there by the end of the breakwater, that's your self-launching riprap?
No. That was placed when they built the breakwater, and it never launched.
Now it's launched.
It's a failure to launch.
So about the staircase, what's it made of?
That hasn't been decided, but some type of probably treated wood or.
Okay, so I like Leonard's point. I think, really, we have this idea, people have always gone down to the beach there, we should put the stairs there, but yeah, we need to think outside the box, because the staircase now, we should choose where's the best place. And so if there's any way to get that down nearer the crossing, that does sound like a good idea.
No, I agree with that, and unfortunately, we can't think outside of our project box. We physically are not allowed to leave that because of all the environmental constraints that the projects are under. But that is something that should be looked at.
Wait, I have
Sorry, I was just saying, unfortunately, human nature is they're gonna go where the closest access point is.
Where the surface.
Yeah, where you have the staircase on the map, so I think you're,
You're gonna go where they can park, they need to park.
yeah.
So can you show on that map where the staircase is gonna
Oh, we actually haven't decided yet, but, you know, we can take it all, you keep changing on me out. We can take it all the way out to here, but I wouldn't want to put it someplace beyond where the riprap is, because that's going to continually get undermined and eroded, so your staircase would be failing every couple months or years. So, that would be that.
Hey, Grant, so, but we can move it, right, we can move it on the, to the,
We can
like,
put
we
it
can move it on the
as far south, we can put it on the
southern
south,
edge of the
southern-
project
yeah.
area, right? We can do that.
So
So, I mean,
remember, there's a gully on the other side of that, so.
so,
Right,
so I think,
right.
so I mean, what we could do is we could look at how far south in the existing project area can we put it, right? I mean, so maybe we don't put it, where everyone currently walks down that little path that everyone falls on. Maybe we move it south of that as, you know, we move it as far south as we can, within the existing project area. I mean, I think that's, right?
Yeah.
I'm always waiting for the consultant to throw something at me, so.
No, I mean,
mean-
we could definitely, you know, and we've been thinking about all of it. Most likely, we were looking at that spot. And, you know, Leonard's right. I mean, it would be nice if you put something here. Unfortunately, you got that tall bluff. If you've been out there, you've seen that bluff caving away. Sometimes 3 or 4 feet of it have dropped away, so that's going pretty fast. So it'd be, you wouldn't want to build a staircase there and then a month or two later have it fail. And
Yeah, and if everybody's parking to the north, they're not gonna make that march down the beach. It's just
No,
not-
that's, where you park.
Exactly.
We're parking.
While you have that slide up, why don't you point to where the failing box culvert is?
the box culvert's right here.
But it is funny that you guys mentioned that because one of the times I was out there, I was with you, Leonard. It was after the December storm, and a guy was on the east side of Highway 1. He had a surfboard. He put his wetsuit on, crosses Highway 1, and instead of going maybe 20 feet south to use that dirt embankment to go down, literally just ran over the riprap. Literally, and I was with the surfboard, didn't fall, didn't get hurt. I was amazed. I mean, I wanted to give him a standing ovation because
I want to know how he got back up there.
well, I want to know how he got back up too. But I can barely walk down the dirt path with nothing in my hand, and he was doing it with a surfboard over the rocks. So I was impressed. But you're right. I mean, people are gonna go down where they cross, but hopefully the staircase not being so far south, you know, being in this project area on the southern end of this project area, hopefully that will encourage people to go use that.
Here's the thing. Okay, you know where, I mean, I could be totally wrong here, and the surfers need to tell me. But when my daughter was in the surf club, actually, I think you were there. The parking is, I don't know who has a little pointer,
Not here.
is way back.
That- you
Yes,
talking about
right
this
there,
area?
exactly. Tends to be where you park because you've got a kid and you're trying to get a surfboard and who knows what else. And so, to make these children walk all the way down to a, you know what I'm saying? That's a long,
Plus you can't walk along the highway there, it's too dangerous.
Yeah, that's- and I'm also
Back here.
thinking- what's it gonna be like during this, I haven't got a good picture in my mind, when you have that K-rail up or what have you. I haven't got a sense of where people are, the walkway, where people are gonna be able to actually, can they continue to walk on the side of the road, or where's it gonna end?
That's a very good question, and that's another dilemma that we haven't solved. If we put in a walking path outside of the K-rail, I don't want to put a walking path outside of the K-rail next to traffic. I'm not going to do that. So but if I put the walking trail inside the K-rail and then a fence between them and the contractor, that's gonna take more lane width, and then I might lose my left-hand turn lane. So either, and the way the contractor's gonna work, he's gonna be mostly out away from the trail. His crane will probably sit here. He'll have trucks that'll come and back up, and they don't come very often, probably every half hour, and they'll back up and he'll unload the truck, or the riprap will be placed here, and he'll unload from there. But, so you'll have this large end dump truck parked there. And so how do I get a person walking this trail? And so I'll have to have a construction guy here directing pedestrians, and then maybe they escort them through every 10 minutes. But it's one of those dilemmas that, how do you, at low tide, if the contractor's gonna build some stairs, either he puts them here or he puts them there for access to the beach, but that's a dilemma, is how do you get pedestrians around it?
I'll make a suggestion. This is obviously going to add some amount of cost to the project, but one of the only allowed uses in a riparian zone is pedestrian paths. You could cut into the riparian zone next to the inland side of the highway. And,
over here? No, you can't, Leonard.
Believe
me.
In the San Mateo County LCP, about
I believe you, Leonard, but I know people in the regulatory agencies that don't.
The LCP says you can.
At doing certain things outside our limits, and we've pretty much been shot down because of even the potential. It could delay the project for years just to study this area over here.
What about along Obispo?
Well, sure. I mean, and that's a detour that we'd have to put in place that people could walk, around. So that would be the detours that would have to walk.
Off pavement there's enough room that you could put pedestrian path there.
Over here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people can walk during construction. That would have to be, that's the alternative I'd like to avoid. I'd like to be able for people not to be inconvenienced, but I can't see how I can get pedestrians through a construction zone.
I have a crazy question, considering the fact that we just talked about how, those stairs should be as far south as they could. But if people are parking in that dirt lot and most of the road parking is project area north, then would it make sense to put the stairs on the northern side of the project area?
One issue there I could see though is that there's even less beach space to get to farther north. Because otherwise we'd all be acting like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was thinking the same
Even
thing.
at high tide today.
No, it just occurred to me that
The beach is completely underwater where you have that yellow arrow with
Yeah.
the RSP line today.
not everyone is that academic.
Where's that?
So the line that says new RSP repair,
Yeah.
at high tide, that's basically underwater even today. It's,
That's a good point.
Yeah, and one thing to your point, Leonard, about no beach here, not only is there no beach, but it's actually lower elevation down here. You can see from the waves, it's lower elevation here than it is down here. So that's one of the reasons that the water's higher over here.
What was the date of the photo?
This is a Google Earth. This is probably 2013, 2014.
I think things have changed very substantially in the last year.
No, but I mean, we've just had the survey. That's a fact that the elevation over here is lower than it is here. That's just a point. But I know we are losing beach rapidly, and my point was just that not only are we losing the beach, but the north end is lower in elevation. You'll notice when the waves break over Highway 1 that they're breaking down on this end. So that was just an observation. I wasn't sure if you were aware of.
You say you did elevations. Do you happen to know, when we talk about potentially moving the highway, if the highway roadbed were breached, would the Burnham Strip fill with seawater?
That's my theory. And the one thing that people don't realize is, where's that picture? If you look at this, this here, all this that you're seeing here, this is natural. Everything here is natural. All this here is the highway construction embankment. So if this embankment, and so behind this embankment, it drops again, down again. So you're exactly right. If they move the highway and this embankment fails, it's almost like a dike. You would breach the dike and water would penetrate quite a ways back into here. So in a way, Highway 1 is almost acting as a dike for that part of the community. So it's not a simple, it's not a simple solution to just move the highway. Because you're right.
As I said, you have to fix the breakwater, nothing else solves the problem.
But even over time, Leonard, removing the breakwater, I mean, erosion is a constant process that, can you go back to the other slide? Yeah, you can't, and with, you will slow down the erosion, but it's not a panacea. Even supplying this with all the sand in the world, sea level rise, it's happening. You're going to see anything along the coast. This is 1861 where the coastline was, and this is 1996. But what this illustrates is that when they built the breakwater in the late 50s, where we changed it, that's where the erosion increased. Before we had about 100 years, and that's all the erosion we lost before the breakwater. After the breakwater, in half the time, we lost almost 1.5 times as much bluff. So even without the breakwater, Leonard, you would still be having erosion. It doesn't stop.
But wasn't the historic erosion rate before the breakwater something like 3 to 6 inches a year? And now the long-term average erosion rate after the breakwater is 3.5 feet a year.
Not 3.5 feet. It's 1.65 feet.
Barbara Vanderwerf has the charts in her book showing that at Murata Surf West.
Distance and you can tell it's not 3 feet.
Um,
There are sections.
Yeah,
There are sections where it's gone 10 feet.
After this meeting, I should talk to you and arrange.
Sure. But also remember, you throw those terms out like 6 inches a year or something, but erosion's not constant.
Right.
It's catastrophic.
Sure.
So during large events, you'll get large amounts of erosion at a time, and then that's averaged over a certain period of time.
And a few years ago, I forget which year it was, but I've probably got photos, at the stub of Murata Road opposite Coronado, there were 2 back-to-back storms a week or 2 apart, and 10 feet disappeared in those 2 storms.
Exactly, and that's how it happens. And the problem is with whatever you want to call it, global warming, climate change, is not so much sea level rise, but you get more increase in larger storm events.
Yep.
And these large storm events are what cause erosion. So there is the potential to have increased erosion. In this project, we're just talking about this last little piece here of the highway embankment before it gets to the bluff section. But there's a lot of work to be done on the coast, and a lot of things that have to be figured out.
Well, there used to be a Bluff Edge parking lot belonging to the city of Half
I
Moon
drove
Bay.
my motorcycle and parked right there.
And, you used to be able to go in, park diagonally, and then back out, and there was basically a travel lane. The travel lane is now down to a goat trail.
Yeah, this shows actually the old Murata Road as it came down all the way down the bluff.
But
the parking lot.
if you look in Barbara Vanderwerf's book, there's a photo of roughly 1906, 1908 that shows an El Granada Beach bathhouse at a location that's now, I think, about 500 feet offshore.
Yeah, in part of that log ribbon, I mean, the erosion is more intense here, the wave energy is more intense here than it is here, but it still affects the entire area.
Couple of things. I think you partially addressed this, but where are you anticipating putting the temporary stair for access to the beach during the project?
That's up to the contractor, and I would assume if I was the contractor, I would put it over here probably, like what Leonard was talking about, and you can see how it'll function, but it would have to be far enough away.
So they can put it outside the project area?
Well, close, Leonard, but our limits, our environmental limits, are they here, Alvin? We don't have the, but I would assume he would put it as far away from his construction area here, so that people can have safe access to the beach.
All right, and do you expect that to be strictly temporary, or are they gonna put in concrete pilings, or how will that be held in place?
That will be designed by the contractor, and I imagine you'd have to have some sort of temporary concrete footing. You wouldn't put concrete into
Okay,
the
because
beach,
if they put anything into the ground there, they will fracture that bluff. That's what's happened everywhere anybody's put anything in the
Oh, at
bluff.
the top of the bluff.
Yes, so that's something that needs to be in the impact report before it happens. It cannot be left up to the contractor.
It should probably be written in the contract itself.
Well, yes, it needs to be part of the contract, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he would have to take it far enough back from the bluff face.
Exactly, which means probably some temporary steel stairs or something. I don't know, but it can't be anything that drives anything into the bluff, near the edge of the
It would
bluff.
be relatively small scale
Right.
temporary
Yeah,
stairs.
anything that goes into the bluff accelerates the bluff erosion. We've seen that over and over. The other thing I wanted to say, if you're worried about keeping the left turn lane and the zigging at the intersection, there's that really long right turn lane going into Coronado that you could temporarily move the traffic northbound and just get rid of the right turn lane.
You're holding down-
And that will create a traffic disaster back up
Yeah,
northbound.
no matter what we're doing, we're
What-
going to
what did
affect
you say?
traffic.
Sorry, say that again, Dave?
Okay, so if you see that black vehicle just south of
This one?
Coronado, no,
Oh.
on the highway, south, there you go. That's in the right turn lane. So-
That right turn lane was built when
I-
the intersection was
so-
signalized before that
So,
was
so
a
li-
disaster.
listen, let me talk, I've got the podium. All I'm saying is during the 2 months during the construction, when you have to temporarily move the lanes over, it might be better to take out that right turn lane than to lose all the other left turn lanes and everything else. So I think it should be part of the consideration. I'm not saying you should do it, but I think, I mean, I take that right turn lane all the time. I'll miss it if it's gone, but be better than losing the left turn lane, in my opinion.
Then people slow down in through traffic lane, creating huge backouts. That's what we
Yes.
had pre-97.
And so this project will cause backups during the duration of the project, there's no question. One other comment I had from somebody who sent me email was the long-term quote-unquote permanent stairs, once the project's complete. There didn't seem to be a lot of reason to have railings on those stairs. And given that people are going to be carrying surfboards and things down, the stairs do sort of get, the railings do sort of get in the way, so.
Caltrans won't let us build stairs without railings, but we are gonna make them 6 to 8 feet wide, so
Okay.
they'll be wider, they won't be narrow stairs. The
Okay.
temporary stairs may be smaller during the duration of the contract, but we're looking at 6 to 8 foot wide staircase.
Great. Okay, one last question. I'm trying to figure out from the earlier drawings which showed the brown, so there is a gully there that I've been
Right, the gully
talking about.
comes right
Is
through.
any of that gully going to be filled as part of this
Right,
project?
Alvin showed that.
Yeah, there you
I
are.
think
You're
he
looking right at
explained Yeah, so if you look, your gully is right here.
Yeah.
It comes around. And what happens, so watch closely there. This brown area is embankment fill.
Okay,
So-
that's
so-
what I thought, but I
So
wanted
this part,
to
so
make sure.
here's, if you look at your topo, you can see the bottom of the gully right here.
Yeah,
Comes right there. So the base of the, it's gonna be a 2-to-1 slope here. It'll toe in right at the base of that gully, almost at
Okay.
the low point.
that's what I thought I remembered from an earlier presentation, but I wanted to check.
Yeah, so
Okay.
as this continues through the willows, this area will be just a dirt embankment, but it will be a little smaller as the ground's a little higher. But it would be about there, so you would still have the partial embankment.
And one other comment on the whole riprap and erosion just moving down, that's probably worth making in all these presentations and in whatever you send to the Coastal Commission is, we know we're gonna lose more, but we have more to lose south of the project. And the whole point was to protect the highway itself. And
Right.
that's the narrowest part, so
And I think
it's a
that-
trade-off.
Yeah, the thing that was left off about adding riprap increases the erosion just down slope, putting in a wall rainfall increases that erosion 2 or 3-fold. So RSP does have the benefit of energy dissipation of a lot of the waves because of the multiple faces where a wall just has one reflective face and the waves reflect, energy reflects off that. So riprap causes less erosion just at the end of it than a more traditional wall would.
Are there any thoughts of fixing the underlayment on the failed part?
You would have to remove it and then place it. And so Caltrans looked at placing grout behind it, probably what they'll go with. And right now it seems to be, I know you won't say this, but what Caltrans would say, well, I can't say what Caltrans would say, but it would be termed probably a nuisance because it's creating voids, but nothing spectacular. The road's not affected. So probably they'll come in again and grout behind the RSP and fill it. Well, there are better ways. If you saw what they did there this last time, they put a very stiff concrete mix that didn't go very deep into the rock. You can put in a weaker, more liquid type of grout that could fill the rocks, but you have to be very careful not to get in the water. And so it's a very delicate balance of how to fill in behind it without violating a permit.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
I just have a quick one
Yeah,
from Nicholas.
yeah.
That is, it's a little bit outside the scope of this project, but in terms of parking safety and crossings, I mean, Caltrans put any thought into that? I know that issue's been batted around for years, but it's a very, very important one to the area if we're going to go to the trouble to protect the highway and deal with that. Have you communicated with them at all?
I don't understand the question.
So,
The safe crossing.
A crosswalk. So is that what you're asking about?
well, in my mind, there's, a lot of solutions that we talked about in the past in other forms. A median that gives a pedestrian a chance to pause before crossing the way, some sort of crosswalk marking, but, obviously, you've got the traffic issue. People don't want the traffic flow through that area. An underpass, an overpass, whatever, just a.
Yeah.
Can I add to that? You mentioned earlier that you might have to beef up the shoulder to do your traffic rerouting, and I thought at the time that, so that sort of adds to the highway, so I mean, that might be just the additional width you need to put a median in later.
We're not adding width, we're just improving the existing shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, above grade and below grade crossings are something that have been mentioned several times in the past. It's tough to really deem them, I guess, feasible, especially at Surfers Beach. I mean, a below grade crossing will, I don't even know where to start with that one. Yeah, I mean, you'd be swimming out of it more than anything. And an above grade crossing, I don't see that ever happening at Surfers Beach.
Yeah.
And so, a pedestrian crossing at that location was at one point part of our congestion management project. But due to the complexity of it, it was taken out so we could do it as its own project at the appropriate time. And so we're actually at a point where we've released the preliminary planning study for the congestion management project, and so we'll be moving that forward. And I think with Connected Coast side and with this project now and identifying a long-term solution, I think we're not too far off from trying to figure that out. I mean, it has to be addressed, and we know that. And so
There's no signage, there's no reason for anybody to stop. There's no median, there's no safe passage.
right.
And, I just see so many errors there.
Oh, it's
And you know the situation.
Yeah,
That's good to hear.
yeah. I mean, we know that it's an issue, and it's something that we'll have to address eventually.
Have you been in communication with the Corps of Engineers? Will they break up the breakwater somehow to allow the sand to come through?
The study is supposed to be out,
4 years ago, no.
no, it's supposed to be out next summer. They haven't come to a conclusion.
So, yeah, it's,
Our other consultant, I guess it would be the coastal
Integral,
engineers.
yeah.
And Integral was able to use their wave analysis and model to study the sand supply. But in terms of an actual concrete solution, like Grant said, when the report is ready on their terms, then we will know more.
right, and it's my understanding that preliminary studies said that punching a hole through the breakwater wasn't an option, that it wouldn't work, that in fact, instead of fixing the issue, could have actually made it worse. So, punching a hole in the breakwater, I don't think is something that,
How about taking the whole end off that goes
Well,
up to the left?
you know, I mean, we have probably a better shot at just making a new beach than getting the Corps to take that whole thing out.
Not the whole thing, but.
Right,
the end.
but that section, I don't know, we have to see what the Corps, we'll have to see what the Corps
So
report
nobody
says.
has really talked to them or knows what.
Well, we were
can't say.
able,
Their report is
But it's my understanding that it should be done in the coming months.
Everybody has talked to them, there are no answers.
yes, they're
well,
not.
the level
they're
of
not ready.
discussion is restricted essentially. We were able to get their quantitative analysis, but not necessarily their findings.
I haven't gone down to see it yet. Maybe some people want to do a field trip, but I think it's Santa Cruz has a sand pump where they essentially have a permanent solution to this. And Commissioner Nicole David from the Harbor Commission has a committee where we had a discussion of these issues, and that's going to be an ongoing committee meeting. How often? Every 3 months? Now, since the parking thing was brought up, another community member from El Granada suggested a number of years ago using the Caltrans right-of-way that's southeast of Coronado, inland of the highway, so below the schools there. Let me just run over and point to it. No, on the other side.
Oh,
Yeah. And so I went and measured that, and it's like 1,300 feet from Coronado down to Murata Surf East, where the elevations match the highway, because at that point, it's above the highway. So if it was arranged so that it was basically a loop, and you could enter and exit at Murata Surf East, where the elevations match, that'll hold, now I can't remember the arithmetic I did, I think on the order of a couple hundred cars. And then we could get the parking off the highway, and then people would cross at the signal. It solves a whole bunch of problems all at the same time by just making that Caltrans right-of-way, which is about 60 feet wide at this end and 40-something feet wide at the other end, make that into parking. Solve a bunch of problems all at once.
But right now, we're talking about this project.
Well, the parking was brought up. We'll mention this later in the
Okay.
other meeting.
Does anyone, any other final questions?
Any other finances?
Depends on what the question is.
And if you think of any after the meeting, certainly you can request a card or contact us through the county website.
Yeah, I guess a couple closing points. Would like to thank Grant and Alvin. You guys have been doing a great job on this project, and this timeline has been really tough to beat, and I know a lot of people were doubtful at the beginning. There have been a lot of long nights, and these guys have been great and very receptive, always answering calls, always responding to emails. I have a feeling they'll never want to talk to anyone at the county after this project, but they've been phenomenal. So I want to thank them, and then Chris and Neil. You guys have been great as well. Chris Johnson and Neil Merleys have been working with the county, with the project team, and they've been part of the project team. And they've been, they go out to the site. They have been participating on the conference calls. They've been great. And so I want to thank you guys for helping out and making sure that You know, we work hard to make sure that the community is always kept in mind, but you guys have really made sure that it happens, and you really brought good stuff to the table, so we really want to thank you guys as well. So, and thank you everyone for coming tonight. Everyone knows how to get a hold of us, and if anyone has any questions, comments, concerns, you know how to find us, and I always look forward to talking to all of you guys, so thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.